Each year, the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission and the Pennsylvania Game Commission submit annual reports to the state legislature. The two agencies then sit before the House and Senate Game and Fisheries committees separately to answer questions about those reports. State Representative Joe Emrick from the 137th Legislative District is a member of the House Game and Fisheries Committee and joins us now for a brief overview of what he heard at these two recent meetings. Representative, first of all, during the fish and boat testimony, you brought up a couple of local issues that are important to your district. The first is Mincy Lake. Can you talk about what's going on there?
Sure. Mincy Lake is one of 19 high-hazard dams throughout the state of Pennsylvania that at some point in the near future is going to have to be drained and then to have the dam replaced. So this is something we've tried to bring to the attention of the constituents and the anglers back home, but it's my understanding that the dam has much of the preliminary work done as far as engineering and some of the permits. So really they're just waiting for the release of funds to take care of the project itself. So we do expect at some point in the near future that will happen, and in working with the Fish Commission, they've offered to come into the district to provide a public informational meeting for everybody, just kind of give them an update on timetables and procedures for the current fish in the lake and how long the project may take to complete. So yeah, that's something that I know is going to be a big issue back home when this happens. So we're just trying to make people aware of that and provide as much information as we can moving forward.
The second is something that is coming to the Portland area at some point in time, I'm guessing, that I'm sure sportsmen there are going to be interested in hearing about.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it's not confirmed yet, but a working group has been formed to try and establish a new boat launch in Portland. And so I know the Portland Mayor, Prater, is working with this. County government officials are involved. My office is involved. And I brought it up yesterday at the Fish Commission informational meeting to ask for their input about how we should proceed and some of the other factors that we may have to rely on them for. So so hopefully at some point in the future, we may have an opportunity to establish a new boat launch in that area, which would be great for not only for the anglers but for the local community and certainly the businesses in that area.
It sounds like you're just on the ground floor with this, but can you tell us how hard or easy is it to get this done?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the area where you're trying to put the boat launch in. Now, in this case, with this property in particular, I know one of the complicating factors is it crosses a Norfolk Southern rail line, and there are certain laws in place that if you're going to cross a track, there are certain things you have to comply with, and I believe one of the factors is you have to find two other crossings that you can close in order to grant permission to open that one. So those are the kinds of things we're trying to work through. I'm hoping we can get it done, and I'm optimistic. Now, one of the other members of the Fish Commission also told me after the meeting yesterday that the power plant used to have a boat launch, and subsequently that was closed. So if the Portland location, if we're not successful there, we certainly will look at maybe trying to reestablish the one just downriver, not very far. So
okay, good news either way, possibly.
Yeah,
possibly.
I hope so.
The Game Commission also offered their annual report and took some questions on that. Deer population obviously is a very hot topic for a number of reasons, and hunting throughout Pennsylvania has really been impacted by something called chronic wasting disease, or CWD as it's often referred to. What can you tell people about that who might not know about it and what it's doing to the population?
Yeah, unfortunately, CWD, as it's referred, has come into Pennsylvania now for a long, long time. We were able to keep it out of our state. And unfortunately, the first case came into Adams County down near Gettysburg in that area a couple years ago. And the Game Commission is working very, very hard to try and slow the spread of CWD. It has a very negative impact, obviously, on the deer population. I know they've created zones where they try and quarantine that disease and the spread of it. In addition, they're continuing to test. We just heard this morning from the Game Commission that they're testing another 4,500 deer from across the state randomly that were harvested by hunters to check for CWD to see if it's appeared anywhere else. Hopefully it has not. One of the questions that came up this morning, though, that I think was important, one of the other representatives asked about, what if people consume a deer with CWD unknowingly? And the executive director of the commission basically said that they don't, it doesn't transfer to another species at this point. And so they don't believe there's any fear if you accidentally consume a deer that has CWD, that there will be any impact for consuming that.
It's my understanding that this is a disease that is very difficult to get rid of, that it can actually get into the ground, into the soil. So simply disposing of the ashes or sprinkling them on the ground, whatever, is actually not a good thing.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the interesting things. It's fascinating to learn. You learn something new every year when you hear the reports. And incinerating the carcasses with CWD does not actually kill the disease, which I found just amazing. And to their knowledge at this point, the only way to dispose properly of this is to basically bury those carcasses in a landfill so that it cannot be spread. Yeah, because if you take those ashes and spread them wherever, you actually could be spreading the opportunity for CWD.
The second thing, and a surprising topic that the executive director brought up, is avian flu, which we usually associate with poultry, chickens, whatever, but this is apparently something that they're also dealing with.
Yeah, and again, something else I learned today, it was my assumption that the avian flu was really for poultry, domesticated poultry, but it actually is having some impact on wildlife, including the ruffed grouse in Pennsylvania, and that they're actually studying that now, and they believe that it may be a contributing factor to one of the reasons why ruffed grouse populations are really at a significant low in our state. And so that is something else that they are monitoring very closely with regard to, I believe they found the avian flu in some ducks, migratory ducks as well. They said it does not affect wild turkey for some reason. So not really quite sure they understand why it affects some species, like CWD as well, and why it does not affect others. But I'm certainly, I know that they are working with a wide variety of groups, not only sportsmen's organizations, but other, like the federal wildlife groups, to really try and get a handle on some of these problems.
If you have questions about sportsmen's issues or any legislative issue, we'll show you the representative's contact information in a few seconds. I'm Scott Little. This has been Legislative Report with your state representative, Joe Emrick.